You're going to love my next guest. So I want you to imagine if you lost your income, your job, your business, or your primary source of cash tomorrow. What would you do? And what would you turn to if you had almost no savings, no investors, and were a total introvert on top of that? So you're going to meet a guy who started from nothing, but now controls over $10 million in real estate. And he's also the best-selling author of Rent-to-Own Revolution and Infinite Real Estate ROI. You'll learn more about what these books are and why they're important. He's also got a great giveaway that he's going to share with you today. So let me welcome Mr. John McCabe. Come on over.
Hey, Mike.
All right, nice to have you here.
Pleasure, as always. Pleasure, as always.
Definitely. So let's just begin with, you've got a great story. I always call it the origin story, which is kind of like the circumstance that led you to where you are right now and made you who you are. But why don't you tell people who you are and where you came from?
Well, exactly. I'm originally from Nova Scotia, and I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada right now.
Yeah, you do talk funny once in a while.
Once in a while. You, yeah. When I have a couple of beverages in me, the bar and the car come out. But I was in the corporate world for quite some time, and I left the corporate world because I'm a true entrepreneur, and I became a consultant, a business consultant, and I actually worked with one company and helped them grow from 2004 to 2009, helped them grow from 1.5 million to 7 million with processes, procedures, technology, information, and just putting the right people in those positions. And even before that, I'm a traveler. I love to travel. But the problem, as you know, as an entrepreneur, is when you're traveling and you come back, you have no income.
Right.
So I had to figure out, okay, how am I going to get paid while I travel being self-employed? So I started researching passive income strategies. And I ended up on real estate investing. And after looking into it a little bit more, I realized that the wealthiest people in the world and the wealthiest people in history all are involved in real estate to some degree. So I knew that that was going to be the strategy for me. So I had made the decision that I'm going to look into getting into real estate investing.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the pathway when you started getting into real estate and what happened specifically. Because I know a lot of people who've tried that out, they failed, things didn't work out. So clearly something worked out for you. Yeah. But again, it started with clearly the right coaches, the right information, the right strategies, but also the right circumstance. So what happened?
Well, I was on one of my trips. I was actually in Europe at the time on the high-speed train from Germany to Paris, and I got a text message from my best friend Heather who said, there's a free real estate investing workshop. Do you want me to enroll you? It starts just after you come back. I said, yeah, for sure, because she knew I was looking at getting into real estate investing. So I went to the free workshop and I enrolled in the 3-day event, and then I was upsold on the dream to actually get into real estate and control real estate with no cash and no credit. Mm-hmm. So I was really sold on the dream. And that dream cost me $40,000, of which I did not have. Right. So I put it on, I think I put it on 3 different credit cards. I just took the leap of faith that, okay, this is what I want to do. So as an entrepreneur, I wanted to have that passive income, and I wanted to build some wealth.
Yeah, the dream was bigger than the bank account, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually the way. But I had the leap of faith. So I invested into the courses, and I started. But lo and behold, 3 months after I invested, I was given my 1-day notice that my contract was ending because it was a recession. 2009 was a recession. Mm-hmm. So they didn't need my services any longer. So I had to make a decision as to what I was actually going to do. Right. Am I going to try to find a job? And I hadn't had a job in about 9 years because I was self-employed. Right. Am I going to try to find another contract, and who's going to hire a high-priced consultant in a recession? Right. Or am I going to try this real estate investing gig? So I thought that the real estate was what I was going to focus on, and primarily the rent-to-own strategy. But within the rent-to-own strategy is the sandwich lease option.
Yeah, so what is that? Because that's I've heard that term.
And being successful in that option is really the true secret. Okay. That is like the silver bullet. But what happens is you have a homeowner, a distressed homeowner. Maybe they can't afford their home anymore. They're trying to sell it, but they just can't. Maybe they bought a new home and they're stuck with the second one. They can't afford the mortgage payments. Whatever their distressed situation is. So I will go in and actually lease the property from them and have the option to buy it in the future. So I'm the only one that can buy the home during that time frame.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like an option, basically.
It is an option.
It is an option, yeah.
Yeah, I'll buy it or maybe I won't. But I have the option. I'm the first right of refusal. Yep. So then I turn around and find somebody who doesn't qualify for a traditional mortgage today. Maybe they have bad credit or maybe they don't have the full down payment. And I get them into the home. They come in with a small down payment. They make regular monthly payments, and they're going to buy the home at the end of the term. But in doing so, the money that they come in with comes to me. There's a spread between how much money they pay me and how much I pay the homeowner.
Right.
And there's a spread when they buy the house between how much I pay the homeowner for the purchase and how much these people are paying me for the purchase. So they get paid I get paid three different ways.
And you have no risk,
None.
no capital up front. You're
None.
really a bridge between the owner who's challenged and the person who wants it, who might not be able to qualify for credit, but you're operating as a go-between without being a bank.
Yeah, it's a very specialized service. It really is truly owner financing and truly one of the only true no money down strategies when it comes to real estate investing. And like I said, being successful is really the secret. Because a lot of people try this and they're not very successful.
Okay, so that got you started. And like from the time you got started, so remember you had this window where you had 3 months of ahead of you in terms of you could cover, you basically had no money, no job.
That's all. I had enough cash to last for 3 months.
Okay.
And this is the decision I was going to make. So it's like, okay, I need to make something happen. So I started to do what they teach you to do in the courses, to go out to the neighborhoods and find the distressed home in a nice neighborhood. So I remember my best friend Heather and I driving around. We find that home. And I get out with my little flyer and I start to walk up and I'm like profusely sweating. My hands are wet and like I got anxiety because I'm an introvert. So knocking on somebody's door that I don't know is a huge thing. And or me to pick up the phone and call somebody out of the blue.
Intro hell, yeah.
It's like, that's not going to happen. So I actually just turned around, came back to the car, and I said to Heather, I got to figure out a different way. Fortunately, I had dabbled in an internet business prior to being a consultant.
Right.
So I knew enough about websites, SEO, and creating that stuff. So that's what I introduced into my model or built a system. And as soon as I did that and wrote some ad copy, that the phone started ringing immediately and the email started coming in, putting me in a position of power because these people wanted my help.
Right.
So there's a completely different situation than me cold calling on somebody.
Right. Yeah, you totally turn things around to help me instead of I need something from you.
Yes.
So you basically became a servant, which also appealed, I assume, to your introvert self as well. It
Very
just
much.
resolved all that.
Because I'm a giving person, so being able to help these individuals at the same time, I mean, it's a business, I need to make money,
Right.
but being able to help them with the problem that they have and solve their issue, and so they can move on to the next stage of their life.
Okay, so I know you've got some success stories, but you also have some big challenges that you faced as you got started as well. So let's talk a little bit about
Like
this.
I said, huge introvert.
Yeah.
So I had to build this system, and in doing so, like I said, I was very successful very quickly. In the first month, I managed to actually sign the first house. I went to a few meetings, but then, even going to the meetings, to the presentation was not as smooth as it is now. I'm going with my little notepad and I'm writing these numbers down and trying to convince the homeowner. The first homeowner, her name was Megan. She was a mother of two twin girls. They had just purchased a new home, and this is the home up on the screen that was theirs. They couldn't sell it. Yep. So my solution was ideal for them. A company comes in, rents it for 3 years, and then buys it from them. Ideal. They don't have to deal with anything.
Right.
So they signed up their home to me, and then I, in turn, found a young couple, Ryan and Crystal, who wanted to get into a home, and they just couldn't qualify at that point in time. So they came in with a small down payment, which was $5,000, which was very timely for me because it was 2 years from the time, or 2 months from the time I lost my contract. So that $5,000 come in pretty handy. And then I was going to make $600 a month just on that one particular home.
Okay,
so
and that's over and above what the mortgage payment was. So
yeah,
you basically got the cash and you got the difference.
Yeah, I was paying the homeowner $2,600 because it was a side-by-side duplex, and then they were paying me $3,200 a month.
Nice.
So I continued on doing that. I did one home a month for the next 24 months in a row. That end up controlling over $10 million of property, six-figure income the very first year, and went on to work on my processes and my system to such a point now I only work 5 to 10 minutes doing the work that generates the leads and the results. And then I definitely worked on the presentation model to a point where any individual, even if they don't know anything about this business, can take the step-by-step model and present to the homeowner and get them to the yes.
Okay, so the net result was you had started with your education years before, and you had some stuff, but then you hybridized it to suit your personality type and the fact that you had some specialized knowledge. But that led you to write these books, for example.
Yes.
So and that's this one here, Infinite Real Estate ROI, which let's talk a little bit about what changed and why did you write this book, and how did this help you share your process and your strategy that, you know, at that point became replicable, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So every time I'd go to a networking group or to any courses, all the real estate investors, because I was fairly successful, I was getting more leads and opportunities in a month than most of my real estate investor friends put together in a year.
Right.
So I was able to do a lot of deals and put myself in a position where I had a lot of opportunities. So everyone kept asking me the same 3 questions. And those were, how did you find the lead or opportunity? Mm-hmm. How did you do the deal with no cash, no credit, no partners? And how quickly did you start making money?
Right.
So this book is really the answer to those questions. Plus, could you do it part-time or things like that? Because in the book, I actually break down my system for somebody, and I simplified it so the individual who either wants to get into this business or wants to do this part-time can actually create their own system.
Right.
And what ended up happening is a lot of these people kept saying, yeah, John, you're different. You're special.
Yeah.
Well, my mom tells me I'm special, you know.
Yeah. It's probably your kindergarten teacher did too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I'm introvert, I'm too fat to fly, I'm real special. But so I had to actually prove my model to other people is that this could work for anybody.
Yeah.
So what I did is I actually left my business for a year and I leased the system to 2 brand new real estate investors. They had just taken a course and they wanted to do this business. I said, okay, here's the deal. You pay me to lease the system for a year. I'm actually going to leave the country. I came down to Arizona for a few months during the winter and just left them on their own. So during that time, the investor, oops, wrong button. The investor, his name is Trevor, and his partner Nina, they actually put together 14 deals in that 12 months. During that time, they collected $200,000 in down payment money from the potential tenant buyers.
Yep.
At the end of the 12 months, they had $8,400 in cash flow, and their profit potential was over $500,000, which was they were going to get during the next 2 to 3 years.
So they were able to, within a year. So how long did it take for them to get their first deal from the time you gave them your tools that were replicable?
1 to 2 months.
Okay.
I can't remember if it was they got one the first month, but definitely in the second month.
Okay.
And because they were just they weren't used to all these leads and following up with all these leads, and then they had to get the momentum going. But once they got the momentum going, they were just gangbusters. They were just putting deals together, and I can't believe $200,000 in down payment money in 1 year. Like that's more than I ever pulled in down payment money in a single year.
So you're basically your first student did better than you in the first year. Okay.
And all they did was they just took the leads from that the system generated.
Okay.
So I had nothing to do with it. So I proved the model.
Okay. So one thing I'll add here for you, just so you can see this, is John's giving away his book so you can learn about his process. I at least wanted you to know that right now in case you're typing this in chat saying, okay, how do we learn more? So we'll make sure that there's a lower third and a button below us so you can actually get John's book. But we've got more great information. So let's talk a little bit about, this has obviously worked for other people as well. It's been replicable. And let's just talk a little bit about how people can learn more and take advantage of this. I think that's an obvious next step. But I gave away the basic, which is give away the book. And that's at infiniterealestateroibook.com.
That's correct.
But what else are you going to give them so people can learn more about your process? And just starting out, this is free information.
Yes.
And if they want to learn more about how to work with you, great. But in the meantime, they'll at least understand how this works. And we can also talk a little bit about some of the other applications, because some people say, well, I don't want to just control real estate. I want to get a home also, and maybe my credit's not so good, or I don't want to deal with a banker. But let's talk about that.
And this is ideal for anyone who wants to get into home ownership, and they want to do it if they don't have the down payment or the credit rate at the moment, because you can use this information or the model to actually go and find a distressed homeowner to lease their home with the option to buy. And when you're leasing, you're paying below usually fair market rent. Okay. When you're buying it, you're going to be buying it at today's value somewhere in the future. Yep. So typically, real estate generally will appreciate, we all hope. But so you're going to get the home at a much lower price, or you get to live in it, and there's no risk to you if you decide, well, after 3 years, this isn't the home for me.
Right.
You just hand it back to the homeowner, you find a new home, and you can do that over and over. Or if you just want to do this as a consulting business, because I've actually turned my model into a consulting business, so you don't actually even have to control the property. You could just be a high-paid consultant working with the homeowners, setting this up for them.
Oh, nice.
And my system, I have 3 different options. You can make $5,000, $15,000, or $25,000 to set this up for the homeowner and potentially manage it during the term with not even having to deal with anything or the risks or worry about the money coming in or out.
So you're just really setting it up, and then you figured out like how to identify what an at-risk homeowner looks like. You've got marketing systems that you figured out, but what's more important is, so does someone have to be like an SEO whiz or a nerd like you to understand kind of the components and how this all comes together?
No, in the book I actually broke it down into like 7 different components as to what this really takes. As you know, the internet's changed over time, and what we used to do back then, and you know, using a system like Main Street Marketing Fusion way back then to dominate Google has changed. But there's a lot of things that stay the same, and that's really what I've done through the book is helped the individual walk through and simplified those 7 core components, and so that they can understand it and potentially build their own system.
Very nice, very nice. So let's make sure we show the opportunity to get the book again, and I'll hold this up so you can see John's book, but it's at infiniterealestateroibook.com. That's where you can get this. We'll show the lower third right now so you can see it for yourself. And what are all the other things that you're going to provide? Because I know you've got the book.
I'm going to be doing a webcast in the near future, and during the webcast I'm actually going to deconstruct building a system.
Yep.
I'm actually going to walk people through a couple of very specific examples of houses that I've controlled.
Yep.
And we're actually going to show people how they can earn $10,000 a month just by doing 2 deals a year.
Okay.
So for someone looking for a part-time gig, I have not found a part-time business where you can generate more income working as little. Because that's my philosophy. How much can I make and work the least amount of time?
Right. And not have to knock on doors.
And not have to knock on doors or call anybody up.
Yeah, exactly. So it is again, this is why I encourage you, check this out because, again, I think there's a lot of layers on what you can learn from this. One is just check out the book so you can see how John's managed to build this business and do it, like he says, with a minimal amount of time, but also this is replicable. Now, he lives in Canada. The same principles, I assume they work in other parts of the world?
Yeah, so the system really attracts the motivated homeowners. So, you know, the principles still apply. People are in trouble most places around the world with their homes and their real estate. So the same principles apply. You still can do lease options down here in the U.S.
Yep.
They're done all the time in all the different states.
Okay.
So some of the contracts are different, the laws are different, but it's still a very viable business down here as well as it is in Canada and other places in the world.
Okay, fantastic. So again, pay attention not just to the business, but how John thinks, and also understand how he presents this. This would be another great idea. Just sign up so you can see his webcast. See the way he teaches and trains. There's a lot of layers of information because John has been building and evolving his business and also moving with the times, because like anything, the way people do real estate has changed over time, but the value itself never goes away. People always need somewhere to live and somewhere to go. So go ahead, take advantage of this at infiniterealestateroibook.com. Again, you'll get the book and you'll get the free webcast with John McCabe. You, sir, fantastic job.